So, mate,
Hello.
bit of information here regarding news more so.
Old news by this point.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because I believe it was January last year, 2021,
Oh dear.
that it was leaked. Again, I'm just basing this off an article I read, I believe. But it was leaked that Warner Bros. Media, or Warner Media, they were engaging in multiple conversations with potential writers about exploring various ideas for a Harry Potter TV show.
Hmm.
And since then, there's been no talk whatsoever if that's still happening, if it's going to go ahead. And again, depending how things go with the Fantastic Beasts brand, again, depending if we know anything about that by the time of this episode's release, this could be the future of the IP for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be interesting for us to talk about some potential story ideas for that we could see in a Harry Potter TV show.
Yeah.
So I've got a few select ideas that I would like to pitch. Some of them are stuff that a lot of fans have already put their thoughts in, and they're universally oh, this is what they would do.
Yeah.
Some of them are stuff that I would like to think are quite unique, that I think could be quite interesting, and definitely be a departure, but also a welcomed story to explore. And I'm sure there's stuff that you would like to.
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, we should definitely talk about the things that are like widely talked about for a possible show. But yeah, I've got some other ideas that are in the Harry Potter Wizarding World canon, but it hasn't been dealt into, and I don't think many people necessarily want it, but they might need it in their life.
Maybe. So let's start with the most simplest of
I think we should start with the ones that everyone wants, and I think the first one, the one that's overwhelmingly talked about, is the Marauders, right?
Yes, you are correct. Yeah. Because it's no brainer. If you're going to do a spin-off / a TV show, the one thing you would do that would be familiar, that has somewhat amount of source material to it, would be a story about the origins, and not origins, more so the life before, during, and maybe even somewhat after of James Potter.
Yeah.
And how he met Sirius, Remus, Peter, and
Lily.
Lily, Snape as well.
Snape, yeah.
And basically their lives in Hogwarts.
Professor Snape. Sorry. I've been looking at Harry Potter, and that's what Dumbledore says all the time to Harry, so go on.
But basically the story would be, the series would basically be that. Maybe it could be a mini-series.
Yeah, people have always wanted it to be like a full series, but not like a massively long multi-series one, but just like a 10-episode thing. But I don't even think that it needs that. I think like a mini-series would be enough to fill all the things you need to for a Marauders thing. But also, I can't imagine a Marauders show being particularly interesting.
Yeah,
because James Potter's a bully, and his famous thing is that he's horrible to Snape, and he's he has his little cohort of friends who always go picking on people and are really sort of nasty. So I don't think people have thought through what they actually want with this series, because I'd obviously love to see, Lupin's my favourite character, and I'd love to see Lupin at the escapades that Lupin has done, and I guess his struggle with his werewolfism.
lycanthropia. Is that how it says?
I don't think so. I say, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it begins with an L. But yeah, that would be interesting. But I don't think people realise that the show would be about a horrible man or horrible child with his friends, with his yes friends, yes men, they go around just agreeing with him. That's what that would be, bullying this poor child in Snape, and being. Oh no, that's Snape. I was saying Snape being racist to Lily. I don't think people really realise that it's not going to be a very fun show. Well, it would be fun, but it wouldn't be different. It would be just a bit boring, I think.
I think it has. I think if it was to happen, it would definitely they would have to go out of their way to show us how they are as people before and during Hogwarts, because there is more to James Potter than just being a bully, but they would have to acknowledge that he did some bad things, some very unkind things.
It would definitely be a character shift from him being a horrible person to him being a likable person that's a bit mischievous.
Yeah, but I feel like there's just cause, because he became a good father or a good dad. He tried to be a good dad
for
at the end for the time he had.
Yeah,
so that's definitely stuff they could work with. They can maybe explore why he became such a mean spirit to Snape, or just a teaser to Snape. So I think there is groundwork they could work with the Marauders, but I do feel like, and I do agree that I wouldn't want this.
No, I don't think I want this either.
Yeah, primarily because it's just too familiar.
Yeah.
I feel like if this was to happen, this would just reinforce the idea that they're almost like Star Wars, where they are so resistant to do anything drastically different.
Yeah, they have to just stay within the parameters of what's come before.
Yeah, and that just gets exhausting very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Fantastic Beasts was their chance to differentiate themselves from the series,
yeah, and
but they just went back with the Dumbledore and Grindelwald stuff. Yeah. So if they were to do the same thing with the show and it'd be just about Harry's dad, it's like cool, but again, you're not expanding much.
Yeah, we know about this stuff already. Like I think what we've seen in flashbacks is all we need to see, really.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, the only reason I would probably tune in to see this show would be if they somehow managed to get Daniel Radcliffe to play James Potter.
That would be good. I mean, only reason I'd watch this regardless if they made it. I don't want them to make it, but if they did, I'd love it. You know what I mean? Like, I would just laugh it up. But James. James was supposed to look the spitting image of Harry, so that would be fun. But I know. But thing is, though, Daniel Radcliffe's too old. Like they're supposed to be set at the same time the Harry Potter or like ages that the Harry Potter like stories are set, and Daniel Radcliffe's like 30, so that'd be too old.
maybe they'd have time jumps. So one episode would focus on him as a young man, a young boy, and then we would have an episode where he's an adult. During his final year. But
he did die when he was 21. Like canonically, he died when he was 21. So Daniel Radcliffe's still way older than that.
Oh yeah, but yeah. I think at the end of the day, the Marauders is the safest option when it comes to pitching stories for Harry Potter on TV. But if they made it, they would have to make it really good and really interesting to warrant me seeing it.
You wouldn't want to like completely change the character. So like, well, who like what Hollywood does recently, where they just bring in legacy characters and just change them up to be rubbish.
Yeah, I would hate for them to do that to Lily Potter.
Yeah.
Because, again, we don't know too much about her, but we know enough that I feel like we're just content with her as she is for the story of Harry Potter. I don't want them to come in and say, she was actually a secret spy for Dumbledore, and James Potter, he was an arsehole. She didn't love him. She had an affair with Snape. It's like...
Yeah, so... No.
Don't... Please
don't ruin these characters that are sort of not two-dimensional, but these characters aren't the most interesting in the books. That's why I think they're not really in it much. Like Sirius and Lupin are very interesting characters because they're older now and more like experienced and seasoned. But like James and Lily are just sort of like Harry and Hermione basically, and Harry and Ginny.
Yeah. If it was to happen, I would be interested to see what they would try to do. But we have plenty of other options that I think they should try.
Yeah,
and we will get to those now.
Yeah. So I think the next obvious choice is one that you like a lot, which is the Founders of Hogwarts.
Yes. Now, this is a pitch that, again, I'm sure people can put their own ideas in, but for me, how I would do this is that I would envision it as a period piece set during the medieval era, and this series the concept could basically focus on the 4 witches and wizards who go on to become the founders of Hogwarts, and we basically see... I'm reading off my notes here now. The concept shows us the early history of the witches and wizards and how they live during this literal age of swords and sorcery.
Yeah. Swords and sorcery is a wicked name.
Yeah. This story could even start by showing us how the 4 founders first met, and over the course of the narrative, have them go on adventures that influence them to create the school that will one day become Hogwarts. And we actually visited the Harry Potter photography experience recently, and we got to see a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And there was one photo still we saw of the Gringotts vault in Bellatrix's.
Yes, in room. Bellatrix's vault. Yeah.
Yeah, and we got to see some armor in there. And you put a great point in there. Wizards in armor.
Yeah, wizards with like medieval weapons and armor would be incredible to watch.
And I feel like that would be... I mean, this series, if they want to be familiar enough but completely different, especially when it comes to the setting, to the characters and the tone, I think this would be the perfect way. And I mean, and then considering also that we've now got Game of Thrones and...
I was literally about to say that.
yeah, we've got those coming back into the fold on TV. What better way to capitalize on that genre than tackle their own medieval story?
Yeah, they make a Harry, like a Wizarding World medieval gritty, but for kids still, not with all the sex scenes and everything.
No, I don't think they would cross that bar to begin with.
No, but yeah, like a gritty medieval style show with the founders would be incredible. And I don't think, just quickly, I don't think that they should all be color coded as they are for the Hogwarts houses. Like, I don't think like Gryffindor should just be wearing red, like bright red and then Hufflepuff bright yellow and Ravenclaw blue and Slytherin green. They should have their their colors and their staples, but not just they're all the colors, because I think that's just a bit naff.
Yeah, I think maybe have like starting off small, have little maybe Godric Gryffindor has a scarf or something that a memento of something from his that's very close to him, and it happens to be red.
Yeah,
maybe Ravenclaw. Rowena Ravenclaw, she has like
the diadem,
and Salazar Slytherin has a locket, or maybe it's just something in general that's very important to him.
Yeah,
or maybe he has a pet snake who becomes the basilisk.
Oh yeah, he can chant to make it bigger.
Yeah, I'm just now picturing. I literally just thought of this. I'm now picturing Salazar Slytherin engaging in a duel, and he uses the basilisk to help him fight,
like Draco sort of did when like in the second one where he fires a snake at Harry, but he just sort of sits there. But in this case, he fires a snake at someone and it attacks them. Yeah,
it's like, I mean, there's so many ways you could do action scenes in Harry Potter with magic, and adding the setting with medieval, swords and sorcery, that just like elevates it a lot of it.
Yeah.
So that could be that would be one of my top pitches. The next pitch actually would be, I think, quite a surprise, but we've actually talked about this for years, me and you, so no surprise for us. But one story they could do if they want to be different and more character focused could be a spin-off or mini-series, I should say, exploring the life of Ollivander.
Garrick Ollivander. Yeah. I had this idea. I don't remember how it came into my brain, but the idea was that it either be a mini series or just one episode, because I don't know if they could fill an entire series based on Ollivander. But a mini series or one episode of basically like a silent film, or silent sort of thing, where he's going through like all the things he does to learn wand lore, and he goes around the country looking for different wand woods and cores. That's why I don't think it'd be a particularly long series, because if unless they make him like Newt and they give him like all this significance in the world and all these different characters to meet, I think it should just be a nice little contained story of him going through and sort of mastering his profession and his trade. And because Ollivander, he's not as old as the shop is, because it's a family business, so maybe it could have like his family in it who've run it before when he was like maybe even in Hogwarts. I don't think they should make it in Hogwarts, because they do that with everything now. But like him as a young man sort of starting to learn about wand lore and selling his wands and just a nice little contained story. Nothing too big and grand like how they did Fantastic Beasts, just something nice and simple.
Yeah, for me, reading off my notes here, I envision a mini-series, maybe like just 3 episodes, exploring the early life of Garrick Ollivander. Nothing too crazy or dramatic, just a nice, simple, almost autobiography-style narrative about his early life, how he became masterful in the art of wand making, and some of the interesting characters he's interacted with over his lifetime.
Yeah.
So again, it probably could just be a show about him trying to craft some wands, and he gets maybe some local businesses that are after him, and that's the threat.
Sure.
It's like, what's your secret? We'll steal it from you. It's like, no.
Yeah, because there are because there are like famously, well, not famously, but there are actually other. Yeah, the opposite of famously. There are other wand makers in Diagon Alley. Like it's not just Ollivander's, because they say in the 6th one when he gets kidnapped that there are other wand makers that people have to go for, but Ollivander's is the best. So that could be like other tradesmen being annoyed with him for being so good.
Yeah, that would be a simple story at the end of the day, but again, if we're talking about expanding, I think that would be one way to go.
Yeah. And I think this sort of leads into the next bit that we can talk about. But I think if this is just one episode, then like a standalone thing, they wouldn't want to make it a movie, because it would be a kind of like a less dramatic thing. So it wouldn't want to be as big as a movie. But if it's one episode, then it should be in an anthology series. So so like a series, maybe a miniseries or a regular size, like a normal size series of each episode being a different story in the wizarding world, but it's like these things we've never seen before. And it doesn't have to be time locked, so it can be in set like present day or set in the like medieval era or just any era, Victorian era, anything. All these different time periods in Harry Potter, just fleshing out the wizarding world and the lore of the series, and like possibly doing things that are like that we've seen, like the Ollivander one. We know Ollivander, and this will be the Ollivander episode where like we see what like a more character study, I guess, about him. But then other things too, which we'll get into now.
I wish I thought of that before, because if they just want to do a very one season, one and done scenario, they could just do that. Make each episode a self-contained story about a certain character throughout the eras.
Yeah, and then if it's like continued, as like they want to do more series, they can have a sequel episode to something that's happened already.
Yeah, I mean they sort of did a similar thing with What If, where they've
exactly. I just thought that.
Yeah, they've got self-contained stories. There's a loose thread, but we can cut out the loose thread for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But they're going to continue that with season 2, where they're going to have sequel stories.
Yeah, exactly.
So that could work. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
So like what I think you've got in your notes, what other possible other like little episodes to be in the anthology series? So do you want to read through some of these?
This could be a standalone episode.
Yeah.
But again, I could envision this as being a show, like another mini series.
Mm-hmm.
But because I can't imagine any of these projects being like 5 seasons long.
Yeah.
But I actually wouldn't mind it if they tried tackling a Quidditch-based series.
I'd love that.
So again, reading off my notes here, a series about a random team of Quidditch players whom, after having just left Hogwarts, are preparing to make themselves known in the big leagues. The series, this series, could open with the team taking part in their final Quidditch game during their last year at Hogwarts. So that kicks off the story, their last match at Hogwarts. The rest of the series can then chronicle the team's struggles and drama-filled journeys as they strive to win each subsequent professional Quidditch match. And that will culminate, in the end, in the Quidditch World Cup event. And we know that event happens like every 10... I'm blanking on what... I know it's a rare event.
It's not every... Because in real life it's every 4 years. Yeah. But I don't think it would be, because we'd hear about it more. I guess if it's... Maybe not, because if it's in Harry's 4th year, then maybe it is every 4 years.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't heard of it before or after, because that's how time works.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't recall how long the gap is between the World Cup events.
I'd imagine it wouldn't be 10 years. That's too long. But
probably.
maybe like 4 to 5 to 6.
Maybe. But the point is, I envisioned that the World Cup event would be like this big event that only comes every once in a while. So they would have to like win this one. Yeah. And I feel like that's a great story there.
And it would have like all the Harry Potter lore that's already in place, with all like the different Quidditch teams, like the Chudley Cannons. And I don't think it should be about the Chudley Cannons, but like the Chudley Cannons should be in it, and they obviously come last in the leagues and in every match that they play. And maybe it could be set in the past, and like Ludo Bagman could be in it. Like just all these different characters that are not all these. I guess that's the one, but like all these characters that are based around Quidditch could be in it. So it has some sort of tangibility with the Harry Potter stories, and all the Quidditch teams that are in Quidditch Through the Ages, and sort of anything. I guess this would be like if they go off of Fantastic Beasts, like the book, they could then do the sequel series being Quidditch Through the Ages. Just try and go through all of the different Harry Potter books that are already a thing. So maybe then the series after that will be Beedle the Bard or stuff like that. But yeah, like a Quidditch Through the Ages series would be an interesting thing to tackle, because it could just have all of the beginning of hit Quidditch, like the making of Quidditch, like the first time it was ever made, and the Golden Snitchet, which was what they based the Golden Snitch off of, which is in the book. It's a little bird, a little golden bird that they catch. It's a bit. I think they stopped doing it because they were getting it was becoming a extinct species because they were just killing them all by playing Quidditch with them.
Oh my!
Yeah, I know. It's quite funny actually. But yeah, stuff like that could be like introduced in that series, or if it's just one episode in the anthology series.
Yeah, I mean, taking the bare bones of that plot there. If they want to play it simpler, they could just have it be a modern day setting where it's just a Quidditch team during like the mid 2000s. They're leading up to the next big World Cup event, and they could have a little. Again, because they want fan service, they could just have like Harry Radcliffe. They could just have Harry Potter being in the stands, like saying, "Go on, team."
Yeah, well, they could. I was just thinking because the Quidditch World Cup is country based, not team based. So like they could have a subplot in the series, if it is one, where some of the members of their team go into the England team, but others don't, and it's like a conflict there. But yeah, like if it goes into the actual Quidditch World Cup that was in Harry Potter, that could be like part of it, where like Ireland and Bulgaria, is it Bulgaria?
I think so.
The Ireland and Bulgaria match, that could be involved in it, and we can actually see what happens in that with Crumb catching the snitch, but Ireland wins.
Yeah,
like stuff like that. Because that would be a fun like fan servicey thing, like with an event from Harry Potter being in it, but it's like such a small event, and we don't see it in the movies. Yeah. That would be an interesting thing to include.
Yeah. Nice and wrapped in a bow in that one. So yeah, after that, the next pitch is actually something that you told me about off the cuff, I believe.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, and I don't know where I found this, and I haven't found it since, so this might have been made up in my brain, but I'm going to try and find it at some point.
Okay, but yeah, this is basically, this idea could be an episode, could be a mini-series. Again, a lot of mini-series.
Yeah, a mini-series or an episode in the anthology. That's why we brought it up, because all of these can work as their own thing or a one-off episode.
Yeah, but this still interests me, because this pitch would be Hogwarts Express Heist. So essentially, this is a completely original idea, as far as we know. It could have some basis in the lore.
Yeah, it might be in Pottermore or something like that, because I'm pretty sure I heard it somewhere, like that it was about it. But you can explain what it is.
Yeah, essentially, the miniseries would be about a group of wizards stealing a Muggle train that will one day go on to become the Hogwarts Express, and that's basically as far as we got, at least in what we know about that plot.
Because I think I remember from reading about it somewhere that I think it might have been someone asked J.K. Rowling how did the wizards get a train? Like people, they don't make trains. And it's like, well, if they don't make trains, they must steal one, and like use like what's the memory wiping spell? Obliviate.
Obliviate.
Yeah, or like just they use spells against Muggles so they don't remember this train. Like there could be like a funny thing where it's like there should be a train on this track, and where like something like that. But yeah, like, and I don't know if J.K. Rowling said it specifically, or if I just thought a train heist, like a heist, magical heist to get a train would be really interesting. Like they lift it off the tracks and maybe shrink it down, or something. But that's why I don't think this has the basis for being a multi-episode thing, because it's just one event.
Yeah, I feel like just in general, the concept of wizards dueling on a train, or like just trying to steal a train, and then maybe facing some conflicts.
Yeah,
it sounds like a cool action set piece.
Yeah,
rather than the story. And if anything, this is another example in franchises where they just say, "Oh, how did Han get his blaster?" It's like how did Hogwarts get the Hogwarts Express?
How did we just get a train? Yeah,
yeah. I feel like this is the lowest pitch I would give the execs.
Yeah. But it's still an interesting idea. That's why we bring it up, because like we don't want to just have the most bog standard, boring things that everyone expects from a Harry Potter TV series. Like. We haven't even talked about this yet. I don't know if we will, but the actual Harry Potter being made into a TV series, like the stories.
We haven't, no.
But we'll definitely get back to that. But it's like if there's a Harry Potter TV series, people are like, yes, the Harry Potter stories, or the Marauders, or the Hogwarts Founders. Like they're like the sort of most famous ones. But you want it to be something different, something unique, or like new, or a bit of Harry Potter lore that you've heard about but it's never been addressed, like Merlin, for instance.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential you can explore with the world of Harry Potter, and this is despite how bare bones it sometimes might be, or how ludicrous the concept might be, there's something there that can be worked with. You just need to have a good writer to bring out the best in it.
Yeah, and like the original Harry Potter, like the first couple of Harry Potter books were so whimsical and otherworldly and all different and everything like that, and it gets a bit darker and more grounded towards the end. But like going back to that whimsical nature of like really bizarre, like the Wizarding World is stupidly bizarre. Like their currency is stupid. Like the everything in it is just so weird and like magical, and like having a series that was fun and not all gloomy and dark and everything's like blue and grey would be a fun departure from the seriousness of what's come before.
Yeah, I fully agree. But yeah, so that's one pitch there. Moving on to the next one. Now, this is one that I think would be ambitious and would have the potential to be a multi-season story, actually. However, this would also be contradicting what you just said. This would actually be
dark and grim.
Dark and grim, yes.
Lovely.
Because what they could do here is make a series about an Auror. So
nice.
they've been in almost every installment in this franchise. We've never had them be a main character yet.
Yeah.
Unless you count Theseus Scamander.
Or Harry Potter in The Cursed Child.
Technically, yeah, but hey, that film's that play's not the plays. I've heard the play's good. That book to me, though, it's bloody non-canon.
The story is not canon.
Thank God.
It's just a fan. I said this the other day. The Cursed Child is it's a fan fiction that got out of hand.
Yeah, but having an Auror as a main character could be a nice launching off point for exploring the world of Harry Potter in the serious light, like the wizard police.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a very interesting concept for a TV series, especially because it could be like it could function how like a murder mystery series works, or like just a police drama but magic.
And reading off my notes here, this series would focus on a young Auror whom has just obtained his position in the British Ministry of Magic. This storyline could show us how Aurors handle their day-to-day routines on the job, going on missions that take them deep into the dark parts of the wizarding world. We could see the protagonist take down dark cults, confront dark wizards, rogue wizards, who worship ancient artifacts that they intend to unleash upon Muggle communities. We could have him hunt down a pack of murderous werewolves that have been killing a countryside village, and I could imagine this concept be done as a noir. That's it. Thank you. A noir detective story, as you mentioned earlier.
That'd be great.
And this, as you said earlier, this is a series that has the potential to run in multiple storylines, and
it could be set in any period.
Yeah, and speaking of that, and if they want to be very different, they could have this be set in ancient history.
I was thinking the 50s, but sure, like actual noir stories are set in like the 50s.
Yeah, the 50s would work, but just throwing this out here, I would also consider setting it in the 15th century.
Bloody hell.
And you want to know why?
Not the 50s, the 15th century.
Yeah, and you want to know why?
Go on.
Because of this chilling bit of magical history. The discovery of the Dark Wizard, I'm butchering the bloody name.
Ezekiel?
Ezekiel.
Bloody hell.
Acrisdis.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Acrisdis. I apologise, Potterheads out there, but I think it's Acrisdis.
I don't think Potterheads are going to be fussed because I've never heard that before.
But yeah, the discovery of the Dark Wizard Acrisdis, a crazed sorcerer who lured Muggle sailors to his fortress at Azkaban Island.
Oh, I think I see where this is going.
Torturing and murdering them, while also practicing in the worst kinds of dark magic. It is believed by some that this Dark Wizard himself could be responsible for the creation of the dark creatures known by everyone as the Dementors. And all that we know for sure is that after Dark Wizard, after Acrisdis died and his fortress was discovered by the Ministry, All they offered to tell the wizarding community was that his fortress on Azkaban was infested with Dementors, along with whatever else he had left behind following his death.
Nice.
So that storyline alone is something that I think would be worth exploring, just in terms of that setting.
Is that actual Harry Potter lore?
That is part of the lore.
Azkaban was not invented, but was inhabited by a wizard.
Yeah, it was that is part of canon.
Wow.
That is how Azkaban came to be.
Yeah, that's exactly the sort of stories that I'm thinking of having in this series. Is like all these ones that are like actual Harry Potter canon, but you haven't heard about it really or seen anything about it.
Yeah, and I think just add alongside that the detective storyline and potential.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder that could be like the perfect basis for a show.
Going off of that, just quickly, when you were talking about that, you made me have a really quick idea because you said about sailors. Mer people are in Harry Potter. What about a cool, maybe part of that story you just said, or its own one where it's wizard sailors, and like you know how like the whole thing of mer people and mermaids like luring people down and killing them, something like that, but wizards like on a ship.
Maybe they could finally do the Bermuda Triangle storyline.
You've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, be it Newt Scamander or be it an original character, I want to see what the Bermuda Triangle looks like in Harry Potter lore.
Yeah, why is it in real life so mysterious? Surely it has some magical basis.
Yeah, maybe it's the dwelling house of so many magical beasts and creatures,
like the Loch Ness monster, which is definitely real.
Or maybe it's literally a gateway to another plane.
We've never had that in Harry Potter.
No, that could be a different territory. That could be worth exploring. Or maybe it's a secret, like whatever it is, those adventure books where they have a secret island hidden.
Like Atlantis.
Yeah, maybe it could be something like that. Who knows?
That's where the mer people live.
Yeah, this could be a mission to find the mer people.
That'd be cool.
But there's so many possibilities. But yeah, the next page. Now this is close to the end here, and this is like, again, this is more scraping of original stuff that's not got ground feet, and this is more just an original story. Just at the end of the day, just make an original story about a character set in the world of Harry Potter, and you can go in so many directions with that. For me, though, this is because I'm still geared to Fantastic Beasts here. If they want to be simple and they want to do somewhat justice to the brand of Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, just make it. Let me read it from the notes here to make it more simple. I just use one of my own personal references for a concept here. Pretty much borrow from Fantastic Beasts, where this story focuses on a
Magizoologist.
Thank you. On that, like an original character, but maybe it could be new, but unlikely. Basically, focus on this character traveling across the world in exotic land locations, documenting and caring for magical creatures and beasts he encounters. And this concept could span just a whole season, with each episode being set in a new landscape. You know, Alaska, Japan, Rome, Bermuda, the Bermuda Triangle, and the designed beasts could, and basically, I've talked about this so many times before, and I'm stuttering at this point. But essentially, have it be a fun adventure story just about this magizoologist going on adventures, doing his thing, and the threat could just be him trying to deal with poachers. As simple as that.
That's what we wanted from the Fantastic Beasts series.
Exactly, yeah. And we're not going to get that if they continue to make more of those films, or if they've entered it already. But if they want to do that storyline justice, they could, and that could be one way.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And now we get to the end, the last pitch. And this is something that I put at the end because I'm confident this will never happen.
Nope.
And I think you would agree with me on this. But there is, I mean, again, it's Hollywood. They run out of ideas a lot. So for all we know, if they are so desperate, they might just consider this. But they might try and do a James Potter series focusing on Harry's son.
Yeah.
And this series would just putting my pitch out here, reading my text here, a series focusing on the eldest Potter son and his years in Hogwarts, or more likely, afterwards, showing him working within a new field of the Wizarding World that isn't the Ministry. Because take away the Cursed Child storyline, we don't know anything about him other than the fact that he goes to Hogwarts.
Yeah.
So
and he's Harry's son.
Yeah, so he could go in many different directions if they want to continue and tap into that part of the storyline. So, and I think if they were to do that, make him choose a different path that's not going to be related to his father. Don't have him join the Ministry,
or be a Quidditch player.
Yeah, just have him find a different profession that could be different and interesting, and take the character on an interesting journey. And if anyone's looking for a basis for this storyline, for this pitch, there is an unofficial book series that already exists that was created by G. Norman Lippert. I believe I'm pronouncing that name. And as of this writing, as of this recording, he has written 5 installments in his own series of James Potter. And I think actually got acknowledged by J.K. Rowling at one point. She admitted it's not canon, but she acknowledged that, oh, you're a fan. Good on you for putting your passion to paper or something. That there's some level of groundwork they could work with if they wanted to. But I fully agree. At the end of the day, we don't need to see this story.
No, I don't think we should acknowledge the Cursed Child, really.
no, not in a million years.
Nope.
And I guess that's it, really. Those are all the pitches that we've thought of.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, again, Harry Potter is so big at this point. I'm sure there are so many other avenues they could tap into. Do you have any final thoughts?
I just think, if there is a Harry Potter series, we haven't actually said, do you think they should do a Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series as a show? The books? Because, the thing that everyone wants that is so unlikely to be made is a Harry Potter series where each series is a book and each chapter is an episode. Which it doesn't really make sense, because then chapter season 1 will be 13 episodes, and then season 4 and 5 will be 40 odd episodes, and it's not realistic because of the aging of people, of actors, and the time it was spent to make them. But the only way I can see that actually being made is if it was cartoon or animated. So each episode, same thing. Each episode is a chapter, and it could be literally the narration that Stephen Fry did. He's the narrator, and then they get voice actors to be all the other characters. It'd be interesting. It'd be cool to see people's interpretations of the entire book as an animation or as a live action. But they've got the movies and they've got the books, and I don't think they need to add anything really extra to that. Yeah,
I feel like Harry Potter has become one of those icons in pop culture, like Lord of the Rings, where there's been interpretations before, and there probably will be afterwards, but it's almost like you don't want to touch it, especially even though it has been 20 years since the franchise began. I feel like if they were to even attempt to tackle that, the most they would try to do would be, as you said, an animated series, because that's different enough where they would have cause to do it. Whereas if they try to do it with live action, they're just immediately going to be hitting dead in the water, because the film series are so iconic. And I mean, it's sort of a similar thing with Lord of the Rings, the show they've cut the show that's currently on air right now. That's even though it's not technically adapting the films again, it's that alone has got a lot of backlash because of just how the liberties they've taken with it. So I feel like doing anything, even if it is to try and be more closer to the books, it would have a risk of basically this is not the films. You were tampering with an IP that's already perfect. Because the film series, they're not timeless, but they have that magical quality to them that it would be very difficult to recapture in today.
Yeah, because they spent so much time and effort making these movies as good as they possibly can, and with every single detail they possibly could. I think to try and emulate that wouldn't work, and then to do worse than that would just be awful. Yeah,
I mean, as we talked about already, I think if they wanted to, maybe in 25 or 30 years they could come out from now. Yeah. Well, not from now, because it's 20 years this year as of Harry Potter's anniversary, but in 25 years or 30 years they could come out and say, we're doing a animated series based on Harry Potter the books, so that and they could get away with that because that's
it's different enough.
Yeah, it's different enough, and 30 years is a decent time span to have a gap.
Because I have actually seen people online animate to Stephen Fry's narration, and that is quite interesting to look at.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send you some. You can put it on the screen now, but it is very interesting stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, I think even Daniel Radcliffe came out recently with an interview saying that if I was to come back for a reunion film, it would not be anytime soon because it's only been 20 years. I still feel like again, I'm paraphrasing it, but he said that it took 40 years for the Star Wars cast to have a reunion, so I think I should get the similar treatment. So, yeah, I feel like 30 years is a decent time gap for a new iteration of the brand to be made, but they should never attempt live action because they've done it already and they've done it so well.
Yeah, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, it wouldn't. So animated is probably the best. Sort of similar with Game of Thrones. I feel like if they try to do that story again, it has to be animated because the content in the book is so much compared to the show. And even though the show is equally iconic in pop culture, that ending was goddamn terrible. So they would have to differentiate themselves with their next attempt. And same with Harry Potter, that's too iconic, and that has a perfect ending or a good ending, depending on who you ask. So they have to be very careful of how they approach it. Same thing with this show in general. Whichever way they decide to go with it, they're gonna have to be very careful. They're gonna have to be very smart, and if they play their cards right, we could get the next good thing, the next best thing with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
We will see.
Yeah, hopefully.